Do you guys remember back in 2023 when we got our cinematic theatrical version of Lady Shazam in Shazam! Fury of the Gods? Of course you do. Perhaps a little more niche, do you remember the babysitter from Halloween 2018? Her name was Vicky, and she was probably the greatest babysitter of all time.
Just shut the fuck up, Dave. Shut up.
Well, in 2022, in a highly CGI'd thriller called Fall, we had a merging of these two queens, and their actual names are Grace Caroline Curry and Virginia Gardner. They climbed to the top of a cell phone tower in the middle of the desert for, I still don't fucking know why. What if I told you they were reunited, this time to fight killer dogs on a deserted island, and then on top of that, there's still people climbing to the top of cell phone towers. And we are in the midst of a Babysitter from Halloween and Lady Shazam cinematic universe as I discuss their latest horror thriller, A Breed Apart. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you, of course. A quick movie review for what I would call kind of a B-level thriller horror comedy called A Breed Apart, which is loosely based on the Wes Craven-produced film from 2006 called The Breed, which is actually a film that I have never seen. I am familiar with it, and I kind of know the premise. So going into A Breed Apart and knowing that it stars the two young female leads that I just mentioned to you, on top of also starring and having a lot of marketing push behind Miss Hayden Panettiere, who of course is from the Heroes television program and more recently my favorite horror franchise, Scream, I was beyond excited to check out this new indie horror. When Violet accepts an invitation to a private island with some of the world's most famous social media influencers, she expects a weekend of unrivaled viral opportunity. She soon becomes part of her own horrific reality when the guests are pitted against each other to capture the island's legendary man-eating dogs. Yeah, that's the premise of A Breed Apart. Let's talk a little bit about it. So this will be a spoiler-free review. Essentially what this movie is all these top-tier influencers or YouTubers have huge followings on social media. They get called to an island that's basically secluded by a Mr. Beast type figure who's like the number one social media like god among them. They all look up to him. They want the same number of followers that he has. He's, like I said, he's basically the equivalent of our real world Mr. Beast. So they all see it as an opportunity to possibly go viral, to, you know, kind of rub elbows. Is that what they call it when you get in with people? What we find out upon them arriving at the island through various flashbacks and the opening sequence we get in the film, which was several years before what's happening in the movie, is that there is a breed of killer dogs, and the way the dogs became killer dogs and like Cujo type animals is one of them was bitten by a bat at this previous event, which was like 20 years before. And there was a movie being produced there and filmed there. Hayden Panettiere was starring in that movie, her character. And one of the dogs is bit by a bat, and presumably that spreads to the whole litter of dogs. And next thing you know, they're all rabid Cujo freak shows. So fast forward 20 years, and once the social media team is there on the island with Vince Venture, who's the Mr. Beast character, it's a ruse. They were brought there in an effort to gather up all the other dogs who are still in the wild. He's captured some of them and they live there on his resort, in his compound. He has cages for them. But there's so many other ones that are out there in the wild and they're very dangerous, especially at nighttime because of the whole bat tie-in. Although they don't spend enough time really explaining that. But they really become Cujo or killer once the sun goes down. So most of the social media folks are like, I'm good. I'm not chasing down killer dogs. I don't want to be a part of that. But what they find out is they're basically trapped on the island. Some things happen. This is spoiler free, but some things happen that prevent them from escaping the island or leaving it without taking care of this scenario with the killer dogs. So this is one of those movies that when I watch it and I put on my critic hat, this is not a good film. The acting is pretty bad, honestly, even from the people that I really like, mainly the three women that I already mentioned to you, which would be Hayden Panettiere, Curry, and Virginia Gardner. The three of them, I love them all so much, and I just love seeing them on camera, and especially seeing the two girls from Fall that I was talking about in my cold open, kind of interacting together, and even having inside jokes to their previous films together, which I thought was super meta. And if you hadn't seen the movie Fall, you wouldn't even notice it, but they do kind of play on that a little bit, and I thought that was really cool as well for us that love that movie. But aside from the acting, the special effects are brutally bad. I mean, just not good at all, and I feel bad because I know this is a low-budget film, most likely. I didn't even look up the budget, but it can't be that huge. And there's some practical stuff in the movie when you're talking about fight choreography that's okay, but when you do the grandiose explosions, and there's some scenes with the actual dogs when they're rabid and they're attacking people. There's obviously stunt people in there, and you can tell that, but just the CG of it all, and like the dog's mouth in some cases, teeth and stuff looked like they were CG, but the rest of the dog is real, and it just is really uneven throughout the film. And that's not what kind of movie this is trying to be, but just to let you guys know, you're not going to get a highly polished digital effects scenario in this film. It is very messy and choppy, so you really have to be invested in the film for the horror kind of aspects of it, or the horror comedy, if you will, because there is some funny shit in this movie. And even the stuff that they don't intend to be funny, why I think the movie ultimately kind of works for those of us that love schlocky horror, is that it's still funny. Like, it's kind of funny in spite of itself, and you end up laughing in scenarios where you definitely wouldn't be laughing if you were in that scenario, that kind of thing. It also is one of those movies where you watch it and you know it's a bad movie, but are you enjoying it? And I think there is some enjoyment to be had with this film. The actors and everybody involved pretty much bought into the assignment. This is a stupid, over-the-top, requires an extreme suspension of disbelief in order to get through it. But they all kind of know that, and they're all kind of in on the joke, so it is meta in that way too. But I will say that there were times it broke from that. It was tonally kind of weird. Like, there would be some serious moments with one or two of the characters, and they would be having this kind of life-altering conversation. And then it kind of goes back to being like B-movie kind of stupid humor. It doesn't always work, and honestly, it's just not a good movie at the end of the day. You can have fun with it, but I don't necessarily know that you can look at this and go, man, that is cinema. You know what I mean? It's just one of those movies that you would catch like in the 90s or early 2000s on like Cinemax, or like, you know, in today's day and age, it would be like a straight-to-streaming action film or straight-to-Shudder or something like that. But this one is getting a theatrical release, and it has fairly decent, larger names attached to it, they already mentioned. And also being based on source material that was produced by Wes Craven, you tend to have a little bit more high hopes for something like that. But at the end of the day, it was just mediocre at best. And for me, it was actually a little worse than that. It just depends on your level of enjoyment with these like poorly put together, so bad it's good kind of films, which it would fall in that category. The other thing I just want to touch on real quick is that I find it kind of hard to be bought in completely to my enjoyment of A Breed Apart, because our ultimate antagonists and killers in the movie, or version of the slasher in this film, and that's stalking the victims, is dogs. But there's a lot of depicted animal cruelty in the film, animal violence. There's a lot of really cool scenes where the dogs are killed, or, you know, the final girls kind of save themselves by doing XYZ to the dogs that are chasing them. And I don't want to give them away because a couple of them are pretty cool, although they spoil the best one in the trailer, which is kind of lame. But anyway, I won't mention it here in case you haven't seen the trailer. But it's just hard to be like, if it was a killer and it was happening to the killer, that'd be one thing. But it's like, it's just different for me when it's a dog. Even worse if it had been a cat. Like, I would have hated this thing because I'm a cat guy. It's hard to kind of get on board with it if you're a dog lover. Let me just put it to you that way, or an animal lover. So just be prepared for that. Kind of a cool pop-up here too was Troy Gentiles in the movie. He was in The Goldbergs. He played Barry Goldberg. If you ever watched that show on ABC, he was the older brother who was kind of like wanted to be a rapper and wanted to be an NBA All-Star, and had kind of just the funny quips about his character in that show. He was in this, which was a pleasant surprise. And I already mentioned the two main actresses that I stupidly refer to as the babysitter from Halloween and Lady Shazam. But Grace Caroline Curry and Virginia Gardner, I love both of them. They have such great chemistry and obviously a history together, working together. And that was my favorite part, honestly, was them just kind of buying into this dumb world that they are in with the breed apart, and just enjoying being around each other and working on set together again was really cool, regardless of kind of what was going on around them, which was frankly just a really silly, poorly put together film. So at the end of the day, the film is playing a limited release in major markets. I definitely would not rush out to see this movie theatrically, although I am curious how the CGI and the big action set pieces play on the big screen, because I saw it at home. Could make it worse or could make it better. I'm not really sure. But at home, the CGI was horrible. Really, really bad visual effects. If you can get past that, and if you can tell yourself, I'm not here for the visual effects, I'm not here to kind of believe what I'm seeing, because you won't, because even if you did, as soon as some of those effects hit, you're just going to take you out of it. I did love the performers in the film. A lot of really familiar faces that I enjoyed seeing. Hayden Panettiere was underused, and they obviously gave her a paycheck to be there for like an hour. she filmed like 3 scenes, I think, and she kind of comes in at the end of the final act of the film and is pretty prominent, but you don't really see her. You see her on the bookends. So they obviously had her for like a day or a couple days, but you see her at the beginning in that cold open, and then you see her again at the end, and that's basically it. She's referred to throughout the movie, but you don't really see her to the final act, just so you know, because Hayden Panettiere is probably the biggest name attached to the film. A Breed Apart, starring Lady Shazam and the babysitter from Halloween, from your boy, is going to get a 4 out of 10. I don't recommend it, although it has some parts that I give a pass to. The performances are good. All the cast kind of bought into what was happening. Just this silly, stupid, over-the-top story. Those are my quick thoughts on A Breed Apart. Let me know what you thought of it, or if you are planning on seeing it. Does this sound like your cup of tea in that sub-genre of horror? Let me know down below. And if you like what you see, I talk movies, often award season, but I talk movies all the time. So make sure you like and subscribe below. I'll see you guys out here next time in the garage.